Existentialism in Neon Genesis Evangelion. Anguish, loneliness, and the search for identity. Introduction: the convergence of philosophy and narrative. Artistic production, in its multiple forms, often serves as a mirror for the deepest anxieties of the human condition. Few works in the vast universe of contemporary pop culture encapsulate and explore these anxieties with as much rawness, complexity, and philosophical ambition as Neon Genesis Evangelion. Created by Studio Gainax under the vision of Hideaki Anno, this is not merely an anime or a manga about giant robots fighting alien monsters. It is, first and foremost, a deep and often disturbing dive into the human psyche, a modern treatise on the existential dilemmas that plague the individual in the postmodern world. The series transcends its origins in the anime medium to become a cultural and philosophical phenomenon, using its dystopian narrative and deeply fractured characters to dissect themes such as anguish, existential loneliness, trauma, and the perpetual search for identity and validation. The plot, which progressively abandons the conventions of its genre to focus on the internal psychological drama of its protagonists, finds a striking parallel with the currents of existentialist thought, particularly with the works of philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Soren Kierkegaard, and Martin Heidegger. This text aims to analyze how Neon Genesis Evangelion serves as a powerful vehicle for the exploration of existentialist philosophy. Through the lens of its central characters, Shinji Ikari, Rei Ayanami, and Asuka Langley Soryu, and the unique narrative concepts of its universe, we will examine the manifestations of anguish, the mechanisms of escape from freedom, loneliness as a constitutive state of being, and the arduous, but necessary, journey toward authenticity and self-acceptance. Chapter 1: The Pillars of Existentialism, a Philosophical Foundation. Before diving into the world of Evangelion, it is crucial to establish a basic understanding of the principles of existentialism that illuminate the analysis of the work. Existentialism, though diverse in its interpretations, revolves around some central premises. Premise 1: Existence precedes essence. This is perhaps the most famous maxim of Sartrean existentialism. Unlike a manufactured object, which has an essence or a defined purpose before it exists, the essence of a letter opener precedes its physical existence. The human being is born first, without a predetermined purpose or a fixed human nature. It is up to each individual, through their actions and choices, to define their own essence and create meaning for their existence. This radical freedom is simultaneously the greatest gift and the heaviest burden of humanity. Premise 2: Anguish, anxiety/angoisse. Existential anguish arises from the awareness of absolute freedom and the responsibility it entails. Realizing that there is no divine guide or cosmic plan, that every choice is ours, and that we are, in Sartre's words, condemned to be free, generates a profound anxiety. It is the dizzying feeling before the abyss of possibilities and the impossibility of delegating responsibility for our actions. Premise 3: The other and the gaze. Lou Regard. Sartre argues that the relationship with others is fundamentally conflictual. Through the gaze of the other, we are objectified, reduced to a concept or a being in itself, être soi, in their mind. This gaze robs us of our subjectivity and freedom, making us feel judged and defined. Sartre's famous phrase, "Hell is other people," encapsulates this idea that the presence of the other is constantly a threat to our self-definition. Premise 4: Bad faith, mauvaise foi. To escape the anguish of freedom, individuals often resort to bad faith, an act of self-deception in which we deny our freedom and conform to roles predetermined by society, or hide behind determinisms, e.g., "I am like this because my childhood was difficult." It is a refusal to accept the responsibility of being the author of one's own life. Premise 5: Authenticity. The ultimate goal, though difficult to achieve, is to live an authentic life. This implies fully accepting freedom and responsibility, embracing anguish as part of the human condition, and courageously creating one's own values and meaning without resorting to external crutches or bad faith. Conclusion Part 1. Neon Genesis Evangelion builds its narrative precisely on these pillars, transforming the battle against the angels into a giant metaphor for the internal battle against the demons of existence. Chapter 2. Shinji Ikari. The anguish of freedom and the weight of the other's gaze. Shinji Ikari is possibly one of the most perfectly existentialist characters ever conceived. His journey is a case study on anguish and the escape from freedom. From the beginning, Shinji is confronted with the absence of a predefined essence. He is constantly defined by others: the son of Commander Ikari, the pilot of Unit 01, the child who can save humanity. These are external, imposed identities that he internalizes because he lacks a strong enough sense of self. His famous hesitant phrase, "I mustn't run away, I mustn't run away, I mustn't run away," is more than fear. It is the existential panic of having to choose to face a horrible situation, of having to act and, thus, define who he is. Piloting the EVA is his primary action in the world, the way he tries to create an essence for himself. However, he does not pilot out of an internal conviction or a genuine desire to protect humanity. He does it because it is the only way to receive validation, even if minimal and distorted, from the paternal figure who rejected him, Gendo Ikari. He seeks in the gaze of his father a definition of himself, a reason to exist. Sartre would describe this as a state of profound bad faith. Shinji denies his freedom to refuse to pilot and hides behind the role of the pilot. Transferring responsibility for his actions to Gendo, "He ordered me to pilot." Paternal approval becomes the external value he pursues to avoid the terrible task of creating his own values. Shinji's anguish manifests itself in almost every moment of an action. The long, silent scenes where he simply stares at the ceiling, listens to his recorder, and cries are pure visual representations of existential nausea. He is paralyzed by the weight of others' expectations and the horror of being perceived and judged. His relationship with Asuka is a textbook example of the Sartrean dynamic of the gaze. They constantly objectify and antagonize each other, each feeling that the other is stealing their subjectivity. Asuka sees Shinji as weak and incompetent, defining him by those traits, while Shinji sees Asuka as aggressive and unattainable, objectifying her as an ideal to be achieved or an obstacle to be avoided. The question that haunts Shinji, "What am I?" is the fundamental existential question. The answer will not be given to him. It must be built through authentic action, a painful process he resists until absolute collapse. Chapter 3. Rei Ayanami. The existential tabula rasa and the search for a self-essence. If Shinji suffers from having too many externally imposed identities, Rei Ayanami suffers from having almost none. Rei is the literal personification of the concept of existence precedes essence. She is, in fact, a clone, an empty vessel initially devoid of a personality or history of her own. Her biological existence is a fact, but her essence is a vast void to be filled. In the early episodes, Rei is almost an automaton. She obeys orders without question, shows little emotion, and seems to possess no individual desires or wills. She is the quintessence of the Sartrean Etrian soi, being in itself, an object, a thing, defined entirely by her function. Piloting Unit 00 and serving Commander Ikari, her famous declaration, "If the commander orders it, I would even die," is the purest expression of bad faith. She completely abdicates her freedom and responsibility, surrendering them entirely to Gendo. However, her journey is a slow and painful acquisition of an essence. The catalyst for this is her relationship with Shinji. Shinji's kindness and vulnerability offer Rei a new gaze, different from Gendo's instrumental and objectifying look. Through Shinji, she begins to experience what it means to be a subject, a être pour soi, being for itself. Her celebrated line, spoken first to Ritsuko and then to Gendo, marks the climax of this transformation. I am no longer a doll. This is her declaration of existential autonomy. It is the moment she rejects bad faith, accepts her freedom, and defines her own essence no longer as Gendo's instrument, but as an individual who values her connection with Shinji and who chooses to die and later to save for her own reasons. Rei Ayanami demonstrates that even the most empty of existences can, through human contact and courageous choices, forge an authentic identity. Her struggle is for her very humanity in the philosophical sense of the term. Chapter 4. Asuka Langley Soryu, The Bad Faith of Persona and the Collapse of Identity. Asuka is perhaps the most tragic and complex example of bad faith in Evangelion. Her public identity is an elaborate and aggressive construction designed to hide a deeply fragile and wounded inner self. She bases her entire worth on the idea of being special. The prodigy, the best pilot, the desirable adult woman. This persona is her existential crutch. It is the essence she claims to have, denying the freedom to be anything else and the anguish of potentially being nothing. Her mantra, "I don't need anyone," is a defense against the vulnerability and responsibility inherent in human relationships. If she doesn't need anyone, no one can hurt or define her. She tries fiercely to control the gaze of others, projecting an image of unshakable strength and superiority. However, this is an escape from her authentic freedom. By clinging rigidly to this persona, she lives in bad faith, refusing to confront her true self. The traumatized child who desperately yearns for her mother's love but found only abandonment and madness. Asuka's collapse, culminating in episode 22, Don't Be, and her catatonic state, is the collapse of this existential facade. When her pillars of external validation are destroyed, she is no longer the best pilot. Shinji surpasses her. She is no longer desired. The scene with Kaji is ambiguous and disturbing. And her mother is irretrievably lost. The persona crumbles, leaving behind a void of meaning. The anguish she tried so hard to avoid through arrogance and anger finally swallows her completely. Her famous line in the final episode of the original anime, "Who am I?" echoes Shinji's question but comes from a place of even deeper despair, for the identity she so diligently built has proven to be an illusion. Asuka's journey is a dark warning about the dangers of building one's identity exclusively on external validation and performance, rather than on an authentic acceptance of the self, with all its weaknesses and flaws. Chapter 5. The Instrumentality Project, The Ultimate Escape from Freedom and Loneliness. The Human Instrumentality Project is the logical and dystopian extrapolation of the human desire to escape existential anguish. Gendo Ikari, and by extension the SEAL organization, propose a final solution to the problem of loneliness, suffering, and uncertainty. Dissolve the fields that separate all individuals, merging all human souls into a single unified conscious being. Through an existentialist lens, the Instrumentality Project is the ultimate expression of bad faith, the definitive escape from the human condition. It is the collective refusal of freedom, responsibility, and individuality. In the unified world of LCL, there is no more I and other, no more the threatening gaze of the other, no more choices to make, no more risk of being hurt or hurting. It is a return to a state of undifferentiation, an ocean of existence without essence, without conflict, but also without love, growth, or genuine meaning. The end of the original series and the film The End of Evangelion place Shinji at the center of this cosmic choice. After experiencing the pseudo-utopia of instrumentality, where all pain disappears, but along with it disappears identity itself, Shinji is confronted with the fundamental truth of existentialism. Pain and pleasure, loneliness and connection are two sides of the same coin. One cannot have one without the risk of the other. His final decision to reject instrumentality is one of the most powerful and inspiring moments of the narrative. It is an act of supreme existential courage. By choosing to return to a world where I might hurt others, and others might hurt me, Shinji fully accepts his freedom and his responsibility. He embraces anguish and the possibility of pain as the necessary price for authenticity, genuine connection, and the opportunity to find his own meaning. He understands that Sartre's hell, other people, is also the only possible source of heaven. His famous conclusion, "I can find myself here," is not a declaration of triumph, but of hope. It is the acceptance that identity is not a destination to be reached, but a continuous process of becoming, of trial, error, and growth. Conclusion: the existential legacy of a cultural monument. Neon Genesis Evangelion remains, decades after its creation, a work of incomparable relevance and power. Its philosophical depth, far from being a superficial academic layer, is the very core of its narrative. Through its raw exploration of Shinji's anguish, Rei's void, and Asuka's bad faith, the anime and the manga offer a relentless mirror to our own existential struggles. In an increasingly complex and alienating world, where identity crises, loneliness, and anxiety are endemic, the final message of Evangelion resonates with inspiring force. The work does not offer easy answers or simplistic happy endings. Instead, it offers a challenge, the challenge to live authentically. It teaches that loneliness and anguish are not abnormalities to be medically eradicated or technologically transcended, but integral and inevitable parts of the condition of being a conscious and free individual. The way out is not escape into a fantasy of total unification, instrumentality, or the denial of our freedom, bad faith, but the courageous acceptance of our state. It is only by embracing the possibility of being hurt, by risking truly connecting with others, by taking responsibility for our choices, however insignificant they may seem, that we can begin to build an identity that is truly our own. Shinji Ikari's journey from paralysis to acceptance is a powerful metaphor for the journey each of us must undertake. Evangelion concludes, not with the elimination of pain, but with the affirmation of life in spite of it. It is an invitation, sometimes painful but always honest, to find the courage to say yes to our imperfect, lonely, and uncertain existence, and, through that acceptance, to find not only who we are, but the infinite freedom to become who we choose to be. It is in this message of resilience and radical hope that the enduring and inspiring legacy of this monumental work of philosophy in the form of an anime resides. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community. Until next time, stay curious and see you in the next video.